she, in her spirit's upward route. A woman set in gold and purple sheath, armed with the trident and the thunderbolt, her feet upon a couching cloud's back.
Good morning. So we're reading in Book 7, the Book of Yoga, Canto 4, line 306. So Savitri is sitting beside her sleeping husband. She is unable to sleep because she's feeling the grief and the fear of his impending death. And as she's experiencing these emotions, she hears a voice from the summit of her being calling her to go within and to find her soul and to conquer death. So now she is en route inwardly to her soul. On the way, she passes through various layers of her inner being, and now in this canto she encounters three beings who represent themselves as her soul. And the first of these is called the Madonna of Sorrows, the mother of the 7 sorrows. And she represents compassion. And she is this force that's there within us and in the world that provides compassion for all suffering beings, animals and men. So she speaks to Savitri, says, she says, "O Savitri, I am thy secret soul. To share the suffering of the world I came. I draw my children's pangs into my breast. I am the nurse of the dolour beneath the stars. I am the soul of all who wailing writhe under the ruthless harrow of the gods." So she continues, goes on, explaining these things, how she is there beside all the beings that suffer. And then she ceased, and like an echo from below, answering her pathos of divine complaint, a voice of wrath took up the dire refrain, a growl of thunder or roar of angry beast, the beast that crouching growls within man's depths, voice of a tortured titan, once a god. And he says, "I am the man of sorrows. I am he who is nailed on the wide cross of the universe. To enjoy my agony, God built the earth. My passion he has made his drama's theme. He has sent me naked into his bitter world and beaten me with his rods of grief and pain, that I might cry and grovel at his feet and offer him worship with my blood and tears. So he is another power, a perversion of this Madonna of compassion. So he wallows in his pain and sorrow and grief. And then Savitri heard the voices of the Madonna and the echo. And she says, Madonna of suffering, mother of grief divine, thou art a portion of my soul put forth to bear the unbearable sorrow of the world. Because thou art, men yield not to their doom, but ask for happiness and strive with fate. Because thou art, the wretched still can't hope. But thine is the power to solace, not to save. One day I will return, a bringer of strength, and make thee drink from the Eternal's cup. His streams of force shall triumph in thy limbs, and wisdom's calm control thy passionate heart. And then Savitri continues on her spirit's upward route, and she meets the second Madonna. A woman sat in gold and purple sheen, armed with the trident and battlefield against the flat equality of death and the all-leveling insurgent night, the hierarchy of the ordered powers, the high, changeless values, the peaked eminences. So she's guarding all of these higher powers. So she comes bringing the strength. She says, I stand upon earth's paths of danger and grief and help the unfortunate and save the doomed. To the strong I bring the guerdon of their strength. To the weak I bring the armor of my force. To men who long I carry their coveted joy. I am fortune, justifying the great and wise. So she says, I am Durga, goddess of the proud and strong, and Lakshmi, queen of the fair and fortunate. I wear the face of Kali when I kill. I trample the corpses of the demon hordes. So she helps, but she says, the cosmic evil is too deep to unroot. The cosmic suffering is too vast to heal. A few I guide who pass me towards the light. A few I save. The mass falls back unsaved. A few I help. The many strive and fail. But my heart I have hardened and I do my work. Slowly the light grows greater in the east. Slowly the world progresses on God's road. And then an answer A warped echo met her speech. The voice came through the spaces of the mind of the dwarf Titan, the deformed, chained god who strives to master his nature's rebel stuff and make the universe his instrument. The ego of this great world of desire claimed earth and the wide heavens for the use of man, head of the life it shapes on earth. Its representative and conscious soul and symbol of evolving light and force and vessel of the Godhead that must be. So now he is about to speak as we start today's reading. And
the Madonnas, always is a positive power, and then the mind wants the negative part. In what wider context do you see this? He puts this two always with every Madonna is the positive part, puts the other part.
Yeah, I think that these soul forces, he speaks several times that they come powers of the inner mind. And in the mind, which divides things, there are always these dualities. So I think that because they don't have that complete absolute power and oneness, that there's a division there. They're limited beings, and there's a perversion of them. So perhaps the forces from below, rising up from the inconscient, take something of that power that's coming from this inner mind or higher mind plane and perverts it, turns it. And so it becomes its opposite in a sense. Instead of offering compassion and healing, it becomes something that wallows in its grief. It just kind of resigns itself to pain and sorrow and just revels in it, accepts it, and says, this is what life is. I might as well just take what I can from life. And similarly with this Madonna of force, here it feels also this force. It feels this strength, but it uses it in an egoistic way. It takes it for itself and it tries to master its world, master nature, claim all the forces of nature for man, for itself. So that's what I would say, that there is a limitation of these beings, and they're still part of the dualities.
It's also in a way the process of evolution when we come out of the inconscient and the process to go higher.
Right. So there's a kind of a force from within, from deep within the inner mind, maybe close to the soul, that's providing, this help. But there's a force that takes that power and perverts it. A force coming from below. So all of these forces are there within us and in our world. So let's read what would you like to read? No. So, Margaret? So line 306 on page 511.
I am the higher of the forces of the earth. Slowly I make good my right to my estate. A growing Godhead in a divinized mud, I climb, a claimant to the throne of heaven. The last born of the earth, I stand the first. Her slow millenniums waited for my birth. Although I live in time, besieged by death, precarious owner of my body and soul, housed on a little speck amid the stars. For me and my use, the universe was made. Immortal spirit in the perishing clay, I am God still, unevolved in human form. Even he is not, he becomes in me. The sun and moon are lights upon my path. Air was invented for my lungs to breathe, conditioned as a wide and wallless space, for my winged chariot's wheels to cleave a road. The sea was made for me to swim and sail, and bear my golden commerce on its back. It laughs cloven to my pleasure gliding keel. I laugh at its black stare of fate and death.
Thank you. So he begins, I am the heir of the forces of the earth. It means he's inherited the forces of the earth that have been evolving. Now he is at the summit of the evolution as mankind. Slowly I make good my right to my estate, a growing Godhead in her divinized mud. I climb, a claimant to the throne of heaven. So he feels his evolving being. He feels that he's developed quite highly, a growing Godhead. He's claiming the throne of heaven. I climb, a claimant to the throne of heaven. The last born of the earth, I stand the first. Yeah, it's interesting that he puts, maybe he's sensing this Godhead within himself. He feels perhaps divine, right? He's claiming heaven as his own. He's claiming, in a sense, almost his own divinity. But this divinized mud, he's speaking of his body, of his physical frame. So he senses that divinity within him. But he also senses his limitation, because in the next lines he says, "Although I live in time besieged by death, precarious owner of my body and soul," that means he recognizes he could lose his body at any moment, housed on a little speck amid the stars. But then again, for me and my use, the universe was made. Immortal spirit in the perishing clay, I am God, still unevolved in human form. Even if he is not, he becomes in me. There's a certain truth in it, because we are kind of divine in our essence and evolving towards the divine, towards divinity, and will become that, as he says. Yeah. But at some point, at some level, he also just accepts, he thinks that all of this is for him at this particular stage, like for mankind. The sun and moon are lights upon my path. Air was invented for my lungs to breathe, as if everything is made just for this being. So there's this egoistic kind of aspect to his view. Okay, let's continue. Would you like to read? The earth is my floor. On 5:12.
Yeah. The earth is my floor, the sky my living roof. All was prepared through many a silent age. God made experiments with animal shapes. Then only when all was ready, I was born. I was born weak and small and ignorant, a helpless creature in a difficult world, traveling through my brief years with death at my side. I have grown greater than nature, wiser than God. I have made real what she never dreamed. I have seized her powers and harnessed for my work. I have shaped her metals and new metals made. I will make glass and raiment out of milk, make iron velvet, water unbreakable stone. Like God in his astuce of artist skill, mold from one primal psalm protean forms in single nature, multitudinous life. All that imagination can conceive, in mind tangible, remold anew. In matters plastic, solid and concrete.
Thank you. Let's pause there.
Okay.
As B said, he speaks half-truths. He recognizes and says his limitations. I was born weak and small and ignorant, a helpless creature in a difficult world, traveling through my brief years with death at my side. It's quite accurate, I think, view of us. But then he says, I have grown greater than nature, wiser than God. So here the ego comes in and he sees his accomplishments. Mankind has done amazing things, has to a great extent harnessed nature, found out its laws, utilize them for his benefit. But still, he's a part of nature. Still, nature controls him. And surely he's not wiser than God. Astuteness. So to be astute is to be very keen in perception, intelligent. So like God, in his astuce of artist skill, in his kind of discerning artist skill. Raiment is clothes. In mold from one primal plasm, protean forms. So from one basic primal substance, be able to create all different types of forms. We can think of plastic, in a sense, we can mold it into all different shapes, but we also mold other materials, metals, to different shapes. Here he says, in single nature, multitudinous lives. Maybe he, I don't know, shaping people's lives like our media. all that imagination can conceive, in mind intangible, remold anew, in matters plastic, solid, and concrete. So he's saying even all that imagination can conceive, he can make, he can do.
And it's in a way a description how our world is functioning. Through exploration and use of data parts, and then but it is used for the ego, for the
Yeah, it's all used for mankind's service. But it's telling something about the genius of the mind and its great capabilities. But also, sure, he's using it for himself. That's all he knows is his own ego. He doesn't know that wider self or divine self. He'll go on and talk more about his skills. B.
No magic can surpass my magic's skill. There is no miracle I shall not achieve. What God imperfect left, I will complete. Out of a tangled mind and a half-made soul, his sin and error I will eliminate. What he invented not, I shall invent. He was the first creator, I am the last. I have found the atoms from which he built the worlds. The first tremendous cosmic energy missioned shall leap to slay my enemy kin, expunge a nation, or abolish a race. Death's silence leave where there was laughter and joy, or the fissured invisible shall spend God's force to extend my comforts and expand my wealth, to speed my car, which now the lightnings drive, and turn the engines of my miracles. I will take his means of sorcery from his hands and do with them greater wonders than his best. Yet, through it all, I have kept my balanced thought. I have studied my being. I have examined the world. I have grown a master of the arts of life.
Thank you. So when we look at the world, it can seem imperfect. I mean, there is this hunger and suffering around. So we can say God has left this world or has created an imperfect world. But this being, this mind of man says, I will perfect it. I will eliminate this hunger, the suffering, and his sin and error I will eliminate. So man's sin and error, he also will cure this malady of mankind. And so it reminds me, I don't know if B was here 4 years ago and we read this line, but I was trying to think of B.F. Skinner's book, and you told me Walden too. So in that book, he was a psychologist, and he was a kind of advocate of this conditioning, positive conditioning especially, to mold, change, and improve mankind's behavior by giving positive reinforcement to, positive behaviors. And so he envisioned a world in this book where mankind was kind of perfected. There was no more crime, there was, no more poverty, there was no more of this kind of greed and just looking out for oneself. It was a kind of a utopian world, but mind created. It was limited in that sense.
Yeah, that's true, and they're still trying to do it. A place is called Twin Oaks.
Oh.
It's in America. Community. They follow the Auroville is trying to do it too.
And then he speaks of the discovery of atomic energy and fission, dividing, splitting the atom, releasing its power to, and he speaks of this use in war to expunge a nation or abolish a race, or to extend my comforts and expand my wealth. To speed my car, which now the lightnings drive. That's interesting, because almost foreshadows electric vehicles or solar vehicles. But afterwards, we'll have atomic energy cars. So I will take his means of sorcery. So sorcery is the use of kind of occult or supernatural powers, like witchcraft is a type of sorcery. So take these kind of secret powers of nature from God, from nature, and use them. And do with them greater wonders than his best, than nature's or God's best. And then he says, through it all, I have kept my balanced thought. I have studied my being I have examined the world. I have grown a master of the arts of life. Maybe we have a ways to go to get to that point yet. Okay, we continue. I'll go up.
Where am I?
I
370?
have tamed the wild beast.
3 is it 365?
Somebody tell the line.
I have tamed the wild beast, trained to be my friend. He guards my house and looks up, waiting my will. I have taught my kind to serve and to obey. Hear far sounds. I have conquered space and knitted close all earth. Soon I shall know the secrets of the mind. I play with the knowledge and with ignorance. And sin and virtue my inventions are. I can transcend or sovereignly use. I shall know mystic truths, seize occult powers. I shall slay my enemies with a look or thought. I shall sense the unspoken feelings of all hearts and see and hear the hidden thoughts of men. When earth is mastered, I shall conquer heavens. The gods shall be my aids or menial folk. No wish I harbor unfulfilled shall die. Omnipotent, omniscient shall be mine. And Savitri heard the voice, the warped echo heard, and turning to her being of power she spoke.
Thank you. Let's pause there. Here Sri Aurobindo speaks about a development and mastery of the occult powers of mind. Somewhere I read in, I think in the human cycle, in the development of societies and the stages that they go through, and that he envisioned that mankind, in its development, social development, would have to go through a period in which, the mind became more developed and that we would master the occult powers of the mind. And here he seems to speak of that. Soon I shall know the secrets of mind. I shall know mystic truths, seize occult powers. I shall slay my enemies with a look or thought. Look how we put to use these powers right away, I shall sense the unspoken feelings of all hearts and see and hear the hidden thoughts of men. Well, just the other day I was, looking at my phone, scrolling or something, and this thing on Facebook came up, an advertisement. I think it was for something, it was like for this platform. It was a teacher who was selling his skills for helping people develop these occult powers of mind. And it was very slick. I almost was really kind of considering it, and but once before I had done it, I spent the money and I never did anything with the program. So this time I didn't do it. But for a few $100s or something, you could take the 6 months course and learn how to use the subtle energies in your body, bring them down into you, utilize them, and to develop synchronicities in your life, to develop, just the power to attract wealth or to attract whatever one wanted. So there are people that are definitely working on these kinds of occult abilities. Of course, he had many testimonials from people that had succeeded, and he was making tons of money and very successful, obviously. So this is a realm of our development in being that can be developed, It's within our scope now to open up to these higher mental forces or inner mind forces. And they have great powers, great ability. But again, they tend to be turned towards these egoistic aims. Until we can overcome that ego, that limitation of identification with our small self, rather than with the self of all. Always we'll turn it to limited ends, destructive ends, ending in conflict. So now Savitri speaks to the two voices, this Madonna of power and this echo of the egoistic will and mind of man. So we come down here.
Madonna of might, mother of works and force, thou art a portion of my soul put forth to help mankind and help the travail of time. Because thou art in him, man hopes and dares. Because thou art, man's souls can climb the heavens and walk like gods in the presence of the Supreme. But without wisdom, power is like a wind. It can breathe upon the heights and kiss the sky. It cannot build the extreme eternal things. Thou hast given man's strength, wisdom thou couldn't give. One day I will return, a bringer of light. Then will I give to thee the mirror of God. Thou shalt see self and world as by him they are seen, reflected in the bright pool of thy soul. Thy wisdom shall be vast, as vast thy power. Then hate shall dwell no more in human hearts, and fear and weakness shall desert men's lives. The cry of the ego shall be hushed within. Its lion roar that claims the world as food, all shall be might and bliss and happy force.
Thank you. So Savitri replies to the Madonna of Might, the mother of works and force, and says she is a power of her soul, not her deepest soul. But she helps mankind and help the travail of time. The travail is a painfully difficult or burdensome work. That's the evolution that takes place. It's a very difficult, painful development in time. And because thou art in him, man hopes and dares. Because thou art, men's souls can climb the heavens and walk like gods in the presence of the Supreme. She provides that strength to go through, to climb, to aspire up towards the heavens. But she says, but without wisdom, power is like a wind. It can breathe upon the heights and kiss the sky, but it cannot build the extreme eternal things. Yeah, the force without wisdom, he's speaking of. It can climb, it can reach upwards and touch great heights, but it can't stay there. It always comes back down. It doesn't have the light, it's still limited by the inconscient base of existence, the darkness. It's still assailed by this echo, this warped echo of ego. So it can't build the eternal things. It can't find its true divine basis in oneness. It can skirt the heights, touch incredible powers, abilities, but it can't stay. So she says again, one day I will return, a bringer of light. Then will I give to thee the mirror of God. Thou shalt see self and world as by him they are seen, reflected in the bright pool of thy soul. It's a beautiful image. Mirror. Yes. We will see as the divine sees. Okay, the divine has this cosmic and transcendent vision, can see all things simultaneously in one view. But we're an individual within that cosmos, within the universe, one individual among many. But our souls can reflect that image of the transcendent and cosmic divine. Our individual souls can reflect that. So in that sense, our souls will be like a mirror, reflecting God's view of existence. Then we will have the wisdom of God. We'll see it as he sees. And then hate shall dwell no more in human hearts, and fear and weakness shall desert men's lives. The cry of the ego shall be hushed within. Its lion roar that claims the world as food. All shall be might and bliss and happy force.
This claims the world as food, therefore the contents of the ego voices.
Yeah, so he claims the world for himself, claims nature, claims God, claims all the occult powers for his own use.
But what's also quite interesting is when she comes back and brings the light in the mirror, everything is going to change into light. Another word, force.
Yeah.
Bliss and happy force. So it looks very positive.
Yes, she's going to marry the might with wisdom and delight. The powers of the mother will come together. So we continue.
Ascending still her spirit upward road, she came into a high and happy space, a white tower of vision whence all could be seen, and all concentrated in a single view. As when by distance separate scenes grow one, and the harmony is made of hues at war. The wind was still and fragrance packed the air. There was a carol of birds and murmur of bees, and all that in common and natural and sweet, yet intimately divine to heart and soul. A nearness thrilled of the spirit to its source, and deepest thing seemed obvious, close and true. Here, living center of that vision of peace, a woman sat in clear and crystal light. Heaven and unveiled its luster in her eyes. Her feet were moonbeams, her face was a bright sun. Her smile could persuade a dead, lacerated heart to live again and feel the hands of calm.
Thank you. Let's pause. Okay, so Sri Aurobindo introduces us to the third Madonna. Mm. Um, Perhaps, I don't know. So she has a higher, wider view of existence, a wide tower of vision whence all could be seen, and all was centered in a single view, as when by distance separate scenes grow one, and a harmony is made of hues at war. So she can see all the, let's say, the dualities, all the differences, the disparities of existence, but she sees them in one grand view, so they all fit together. She sees their place in the whole. And as a result, there is this peace and calm, a stillness. There seems to be a kind of a delight, a carol of birds and murmur of bees, and all that is common and natural and sweet, yet intimately divine to heart and soul. And then again, a living center of that vision of peace. A woman sat in clear and crystal light. She has this absolutely clear vision, light surrounding her. Her feet were moonbeams and her face a bright sun. It's quite interesting. She brings together this kind of, sweet and softness of the moon and the brightness of the sun. They become integrated in her. Her smile could persuade a dead, lacerated heart. Lacerated is torn, mangled, distressed. To live again and feel the hands of calm. So, Margaret?
A low music heard became her floating voice. O Savitri, I am thy secret soul. I have come down to the wounded, desolate earth, to heal her pangs and lull her heart to rest, and lay her head upon the mother's lap, that she may dream of God and know his peace, and draw the harmony of higher spheres into the rhythm of earth's rude, troubled days. I show to her the figures of bright gods, and bring strength and solace to her struggling life. Of their power. I am peace that steals into man's war-worn breast. Amid the rain of hell his acts create, a hostel where heaven's messengers can lodge. I am charity with the kindly hands that bless. I am silence with the noisy tramp of life. I am knowledge pouring on her cosmic map.
Thank you. Let's pause. So here she reveals some of her powers, her attributes. Especially she brings peace that steals into man's war-worn breast. Amid the rain of hell, his acts create. And then she is charity, with the kindly hands that bless. I am silence, mid the noisy tramp of life. I am knowledge, pouring on her cosmic map. So she brings this peace and quietude, but also in that quietude and peace, she says that she draws the harmony of higher spheres into the rhythm of Earth's rude, troubled days. So it's in that quietude and peace that we can call down also these higher powers of harmony.
Last line is also written that there is a cosmic map.
Mm. So she has knowledge, and she's, like we said earlier, that she has this vision of the whole, and she can see the disparate parts and how they fit together, how each has its place in the whole. So she's looking over this cosmic map. She can see everything in this single view and see how it all fits together. And perhaps where it's going, how it's developing. So it's in that larger vision that this peace and harmony can come. So let's do one more.
Okay. And light is by darkness dogged.
No, in the anomalies of the human heart.
In the anomalies of the human heart, where good and evil are close bedfellows, and light is by darkness dogged at every step, where his largest knowledge is an ignorance. I am the power that labors towards the best, and works for God and looks up towards the heights. I make even sin and error stepping stones, and all experience a long march towards light.
Okay, we stop there. So these anomalies of the human heart, those are like irregularities, abnormalities of the human heart, where good and evil are close bedfellows. So we carry these two within our hearts, good and evil. They kind of lie together as if in bedfellows, intertwined with one another. And light is by darkness dogged at every step. It's like we're walking along and this dog is following us and nipping at our heels. So even though we walk towards the light, this darkness is always kind of chasing after us, trying to hold us back. And whereas largest knowledge is in ignorance, so even though we have knowledge, whether of science or of, spirituality, still our greatest knowledge is in ignorance. Because it's still mental, it's still limited, still divided, still dogged by the darkness. It still has this inconscient base which swallows everything in its darkness. But I am the power that labors towards the best and works for God and looks up towards the heights. I make even sin and error stepping stones, and all experience a long march towards light. So even though we have these dualities of good and evil, ignorance and knowledge, she is the force that keeps it moving in the direction of the light and towards God. The limitations are there, but it's moving. It's moving towards the light. So I think we stop there for today.
There's one thing is there's a lot of Vedic images there. Auroville was always putting these little things in the Vedas. The start of chapters. And this thing here about lay your head on the mother's lap.
Oh.
You always said that the soul sees upon the mother's lap. These are coming from the Vedas. They're all along here.
Yeah.
This ignorance and mortality and all of these things seem to be laying out that wisdom in his own language, translating.
So the mother's lap is an image used in the Vedas.
That's where the soul sees. Sees quickly. And then further on, we have this other one, through death to reach immortal life. From death to immortality.
Right.
From ignorance to wisdom. All of these phrases, it seems, like, you're so familiar with that, it's coming out here. Sounds like.
Yeah, it could. Sounds. He often does that. But I always think of mother's lap is because people would go to darshan and they'd put their head in her lap. So literally kind of expressing that too.
I'll send you the quote.
Okay. Okay, we stop, play some music. Listen to Mother.
ascending still her spirit's upward route, she came into a high and happy space. Here, living center of that vision of peace, a woman sat in clear and crystal light. A low music heard became her floating voice. Oh, Savitri, I am thy secret soul. I have come down to the wounded, desolate earth to heal her pangs and lull her heart to rest. I shall save us if earth consents to be saved.
Thanks to Sri Aurobindo. That music really reflected that peace, no?